Many thanks again. Today is World Sickle Cell Day 2023, a day set aside globally to focus attention on the plight of sickle cell patients. But we have a veteran, a researcher, a professor who will be giving us insight into all of that, because he's done some very, very extensive and groundbreaking work in finding how to solve this menace that has bedeviled humanity for a long, long time. I'd like to thank Professor Nosa Bazuaye, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Igbinedion University, Okada, is also the Chief Medical Director, Igbinedion University Teaching Hospital, Okada. One man who has blazed the trail in sickle cell transplant that has revolutionized the survival rate of sickle cell patients. Prof, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Sonny Duke. Nice to be here.
So how germane is today?
Well, usually the World Health Organization usually looks for these to draw attention to some ailments.
Okay.
And today is actually World Sickle Cell Day. I think the essence is for us as individuals to look at sickle cell, the plight, and see how we've been making progress in terms of managing. Don't forget that Nigeria has the highest number of sickle cell in the world. Interesting. Yes, so 3% of Nigerians have sickle cell disease, and about 25% of us are carriers, meaning we have the genotype AS. So as much as 3% of over 200 million persons have sickle cell disease. So I think the essence is WHO wants us globally to look at sickle cell today and be able to see how far we've gone, and then what can be done to actually make things better for patients with sickle cell.
All right. Today being World Sickle Cell Day also gives us an opportunity to look at some of the advancement in medical research as it relates to addressing this ailment. Can you give us insights into that?
Okay. Despite the fact that we have the highest number of sickle cell in the world, we still do very little research in terms of looking at this disease.
Okay.
Most of the researches and breakthroughs are actually from developed countries. I mentioned that we have the highest number. It's on record that over 300,000 deaths, annually, of children with sickle cell disease in Nigeria alone. So you're talking about a situation where we have a lot of patients. Advances are coming up, but we always emphasize the fact that prevention is usually better than cure. So we are saying that despite the new advances we are going to talk about today, our appeal is that please let us understand that it's better we stop having many children with sickle cell disease so that the job will be less. And I'm sure that if sickle cell disease was primarily a disease of the white man, by now it should have been eradicated. So the recent advances, a lot of work is being done. Where even the management generally, management of sickle cell before was very poor.
Okay.
And then we talk about children that you talk about things like Biku, because they die usually
very
early, within 5 years of age, and sometimes before they celebrate their 18th birthday, most of them are, you see, a lot of mortality takes place.
Okay.
So modern medicine, in terms of drugs, in managing this patient has also improved.
Okay.
That the lifespan of sickle cell patient has even improved to up to the age of 40 to 45, which is almost equivalent to what we have for Nigeria.
As the life expectancy for the normal.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we're saying is that medical practice in terms of management has improved, and life expectancy for sickle cell has also improved.
Fantastic.
But despite all this, a lot of medications. Now we're talking about drugs that can make sure that your crises are less. But don't also forget that there are so many fake medications out there. And so we also advise that our patients should please try as much as possible to understand.
How accessible are these drugs? Are they being subsidized so that those who are in this condition can access this? Yes.
Yes, they're also very expensive. That's the truth about it. We believe that sickle cell, there was a time we wanted to pass a bill in the National Assembly to make sickle cell a special condition where they can get subsidies and things like that. These drugs are very expensive. We talk about drugs like hydroxyurea and some other things so getting these drugs for sickle cell disease patients is very difficult because they are expensive. So we expect that government must have some policies to ensure that these things are taken care of. So apart from the drugs, the other areas where you're talking about advances, we said now drugs can make you move further. Immunization has also improved. We now immunize our sickle cell disease patients against infection.
Okay.
Then we're talking about the cure, which is the main
improvement.
Therapy, yes,
Okay.
in terms of, and in 1984, if actually the cure for sickle cell started in 1984, when a patient who has blood cancer had sickle cell, well, no sickle cell patient had blood cancer and needed stem cell transplant. And then you have a cure of both the blood cancer and the sickle cell disease. So since then, in 1984, we have been doing a lot of stem cell transplants. But stem cell transplants since 1984, but about 5 years ago too, there's another kind of therapy called gene therapy. Gene therapy is the latest, where you now take the cells of the sickle cell patient and you manipulate it to reverse what was already a problem before. So initially, we're talking about stem cell transplant, which is what we are doing in Nigeria. Currently, we're talking about gene therapy. We're not doing gene therapy yet. So what we're doing currently in Nigeria since 2011 is stem cell transplantation. And then we've done quite a lot. What it does is that it has the ability to change the genotype of the sickle cell disease patient from SS to whoever the donor is.
Wow.
So if the donor is AS, we have the patient becoming AS. If the donor is AA, we have the patient becoming AA. And then we would have been privileged to have, we have a lot of patients. As of today, we've done a total of 16 stem cell transplants.
What's the success rate?
Success rate is about 70–80%, because that's also what is recorded worldwide. And also forget too that most of our patients in developing countries are already very clinically bad. What I mean is that
before they seek this help, okay.
Before they seek this, if you see a sickle cell disease patient in Europe and developed countries, you will not see any facie. I mean, you will not even recognize them. But here,
you know easily.
Easily,
just by physical appearance.
That's it. So it's to tell you the kind of complications that have taken place. So most of the time, we're saying that if this is done with less complications, they tend to be better.
Is this available in Benin City, in Edo State, in Nigeria, accessing
stem cell transplantation?
Yes. Is this readily available?
Yes. Currently, the Igbinedion University Teaching Hospital, in collaboration with Celtech Healthcare, we are providing these services. We did the first one in 2011. Currently, this is being done, and every day we have patients who come from within and outside the country for sickle cell stem cell transplants. So that's the situation where we have the facilities available in Benin, and this center is actually the only center in the entire sub-Saharan Africa that provides this facility, where we can actually do stem cell transplantation for the cure of sickle cell disease.
Well, Prof, I want to thank you specially, but let me just quickly look at the theme for this year, which is very key to our conversation, as we call it a wrap, before we rejoin our Abuja Network studio for this conversation. It says, building and strengthening global sickle cell communities, formalizing newborn screening, and knowing your sickle cell disease status. That's the theme for this year. How germane is this thing? Talking about building and strengthening sickle cell communities, and then newborn screening. How germane is this?
Yeah, well, many centers in Nigeria are currently doing newborn screening. As I told you, an average of about 150,000 babies are born yearly with sickle cell disease.
Okay.
And what we're saying, like in developed countries, once any black is born in developed countries, you have to do the genotype. It's automatic. And that gives them data and also makes sure that we are able to plan for them. So right now, many centers in Nigeria, many teaching hospitals are into newborn screening. And then when we're talking about newborn screening, we need it to be done properly. Okay. Because part of the problem we've been having is that you have a situation where wrong results for both spouses and things like that. So we want to have designated centers. So there are many centers. Most teaching hospitals in Nigeria do newborn screening. Okay. And building this community, we're saying that, you see, we're beginning to advise that sickle cell disease patients form what we call sickle cell club. So you can have a good community, they interact, they share each other's ideas and things like that. Yeah. So these are issues about this year. Those are the areas that WHO is actually asking us to concentrate on. Okay. You know, and then proper screening, as you mentioned. Let's understand that we have very many fake results around. So we advise that if you're going to do your genotype screening, it has to be done in designated hospitals that you know that results will be very accurate.
All right, Prof, let me thank you especially for coming.
Thank you very much, Sonny.
It's always a delight to have you here because you're just on point with these issues. I mean, it's a reflection of the practical hands-on of all of these information and all of these activities. It's the TMI on the ITV network. We thought we could actually bring you, as part of this conversation, a sickle cell patient who successfully underwent the surgery or the transplant, as it were, and is living healthily. Big thanks to Celtech in collaboration with Igbinedion University Teaching Hospital. But we hope that some other time we'll be able to do that. We're just in time now to link up with our network studio in Abuja for the rest of this conversation. Dominic, good to have you on set again. Take it away.